Hey everyone, Brian from All Day Ruckoff here, and today I've got an awesome episode with Chad Malone from Capital MMA. Chad has a lot of experience with martial arts, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai, and recently completed a Star Course event of tough, a light a tough, and then completed an HTL. And we talk about his first Star Course story, which is truly, truly funny. And then we get into training for those other events, his HTL, and how martial arts, BJJ, Muay Thai played into a tough mental mindset for the events and the additional training he had to do on top of all the work he was already doing that was specific for GORUCK events. I've used Muay Thai in the past to train for GORUCK events, and it's worked out really well for lights, for toughs. But when I did my heavy, I definitely had to add in a lot of additional rucking fitness as well. And I think that Chad does a really, really good job during this call, just talking about what he was able to get from his background in fitness and what rucking specific stuff he had to do so that his recovery was better. Because from what you'll learn, his recovery for the HTL was a lot nicer than his recovery from the Star Course. And if you're weighing those two events side by side, I would definitely say an HTL is more difficult than a Star Course. So there's a lot that we talk about. It's a really, really fun call. And I really hope you enjoy this episode. This is the All Day Ruckoff Podcast, episode number 110. Thank you so much for taking the time to download this, to listen, to support me and All Day Ruckoff. I truly, truly appreciate it. And then a final quick shout out to everyone who supports on Patreon. That is truly appreciated as well. I think that you're going to get a kick out of this interview with Chad. There is some swearing in it. So if you have kids listening, maybe not the best episode for them. So you can be the judge of it. With all that out of the way, here is the interview with Chad. Do you own Capital MMA?
Yeah, so we are it's an affiliation. Capital MMA was started by my coach, who is a direct student of Hoist Gracie out of Connecticut. When Hoist started his network in Connecticut, my coach was training under him there, and then he moved down to Virginia. And Hoist tapped him to open up a location. So my coach started the first official location. That grew. He opened another location. And then since then, a few of his students, including myself, have kind of branched off and opened our own locations. So we're not a franchise. We kind of, at the end of the day, we really just have like a handshake agreement where we just all operate together. Our students benefit from it because they can train at any of the locations. And with this area, it's very like you could be in DC and then in 15 minutes you could be in Virginia, and 15 more minutes you could be in Maryland. So our students benefit from it because essentially wherever they are in the DC metro area, they've got a location that's accessible. And then we have a lot going on. So we have like Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. We teach we have Muay Thai, so like kickboxing. A couple of our gyms have CrossFit. Our gym runs the functional fitness program. So it's our coaches are certified by the Honored Academy. So we run like a lot of kettlebells, unconventional training at our location just because my gym is smaller. So I do that in the evening. Luckily, I have a really good partner who helps me out. We do that in the evening. During the daytime, we work our day job. So fun times.
That's cool.
Yeah, man.
That's really cool.
Really cool. Yeah. Hopefully, the plan is to cut back on the therapy and do just the gym within the next year. But I've been saying next year every year for the past 4 years. So we'll see when it actually happens. But we're getting there. It's growing. Gyms running a gym is like a labor of love, man. You're not going to get rich off of it. The benefit to it is just that you get to wake up and do what you love for a living rather than, going out there and actually having to work and do something that you might not want to do. So it's all good.
Absolutely. I've been a member of a number of gyms over the years, and that's how it's always been.
Yeah. Yeah, man. It's been like I grew up around weights and fitness and stuff like that. So I knew I always wanted to, like in the back of my head, I was like, I want to run a gym and do something in that realm. At first, you first get in, you go through all that schooling, like, all right, I'm cool with this. This is, a little bit more than fitness because you're in the medical field, but yeah, you're doing fitness stuff, but it's not quite the same as doing like 100% what you love, like jujitsu. I never wake up on a day where I have to teach jujitsu and like, damn, I don't feel like going to teach today. It's always a plus when you get to teach on a given day. Even if you're tired, you're like, all right, tired, but once I get there, I pep up, get energy, and get going. So it's awesome in that aspect.
That's the thing, right? I mean, even on the days where you wake up and you feel like trash, and then you're just dreading the day. It's like for some reason, the second I step foot in the my old Muay Thai gym, I just like everything would flip. It'd be awesome.
Hell yeah, yeah. That's exactly how it is, man. I'll have days where I'm like literally dozing off on the road driving to the gym because I actually live about 40 minutes away from my gym. So it can be a long ride if you don't get on the highway at the right time. You get stuck in a little bit of traffic. So I'll be out on the road dozing off sometimes, and I get in there. And my first class of the day are the little kids, so the 4 to 9-year-olds. As soon as you get in there with them, man, they don't care if you're tired. you better get up and start having some fun. And so it turns everything around. You got the worst day, it turns everything around.
Yeah, it sure does. The only other time I've really experienced feelings like that is showing up to GORUCK events where you're just kind of, I don't know if you ever got that, but you just kind of dread it driving there. Like, man, I just really want to sleep tonight. Like,
yeah,
why am I coming out here? And then as soon as you get there and you see the other people and you start talking, everything just flips. You're like, yeah, I'm glad I'm here.
Yeah. And you just gotta let all that other stuff roll off your back. Keep going, because at the end of the day, nobody else cares.
Oh,
and
for
it
sure.
doesn't matter.
So you've always been into fitness. You eventually started your own gym, kind of branched off when your when your coach tapped you to start it. And then you teach Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. You have your functional fitness classes. Are there any other classes that you have at your gym?
So we teach Muay Thai. I don't teach that class. I primarily, at this point, just teach the Jiu-Jitsu classes. And then I have some friends of mine that have been training with me and my partner who teach the other classes, because you start to realize, you got to have a good team. If you're trying to do everything on your own, as I was when we first started, it just doesn't work out. So I focus on just the jiu-jitsu classes, and I can give the best, my best just doing that. And then, so I teach about, how many classes I teach a week? I think about 10 classes a week, maybe. Yeah, about 10 classes a week. And a few private lessons here or there. So yeah, that's my passion, doing that. Then, like I said, during the days, physical therapy to try to, which, I mean, it's not an awful job. I tell people all the time, like, if I had to do this job for the rest of my life, it's fine. It'll pay the bills. I meet great people and I get to help people out a lot, but it's just not what I want to do every day. So, but part of being an adult, right?
It is, especially if you want to live in a house, or a roof.
Yeah, like, right.
if you don't like food or shelter, I mean, you can do whatever you want. But
yeah, exactly. You can do GORUCK all day. Oh, wait, maybe you can't, because you got to pay for all that gear and the registration. Yeah, man. Yeah, but the funny thing is I was actually talking to one of my buddies about this the other day when we were doing, this week ago when we were doing the Star Course, is that like I do all this fitness stuff now, but I wasn't an athlete until I was a late bloomer. So it wasn't until I was maybe like 16 or so where I finally like started growing into my body and succeeding in some athletic stuff. Because I have asthma, and I was, asthma and kind of a chunky kid. And then eventually it all started to come together. But up until that point, and even pushing through, like I wrestled a little bit in college, but it was always hard for me to get to the level of competition I wanted to be at. And then, eventually things started coming together, and you start to realize that it's probably like mid to late 20s where I really started to put things together. But it takes time.
It does. It does. I wasn't, in shape throughout school. It's kind of funny. It wasn't actually until college I needed a 1-credit class, and I ended up taking a class taught by a BJJ instructor from a local gym who puts on 2 classes at the school, just 1 credit, like intro. And I got hooked on that. So I ended up going to his gym, and then I would spend about, 12 to 16 hours a week there, easy, doing BJJ and Muay Thai. Like that's what I lived. So I went from never working out to either, school, studying, and then fitness, BJJ and Muay Thai.
Yeah.
And that's where I got my athletic base from at, 21 years old, when I finally got in shape.
Yeah, that's cool. It's cool that you have the access to that too. That's kind of how I got into jiu-jitsu myself, because I always wanted to do martial arts. I grew up like a Bruce Lee kid. My dad loved Bruce Lee, so we used to watch Bruce Lee, Chuck Norris movies all the time, but we didn't have a lot of money, so we couldn't, we never got signed up for anything. So I was always like, man, when I'm an adult and I can pay for stuff on my own, I'm going to do this. And then I went to Howard for undergrad, and they offered a judo class. So I took judo, just that 1 class, and I was like, man, I love this. So it took a little while before I could actually, I didn't start jiu-jitsu until a number of years later, until after I met my wife. And then coming from a wrestling background, I was like, all right, this is awesome. You get the takedown, then you get to continue to fight on the ground. So it's like judo and then some. This is where I need to be. Yeah, man.
That's a good way to put it. Judo and then some.
Yeah, man. It was dope. But yeah, having the access to have those college classes, those college courses, to give the opportunity for people who otherwise wouldn't have been able to get involved is key. Luckily, I think more and more schools are starting to offer jiu-jitsu classes. Actually, I was teaching a jiu-jitsu class at Howard up until a couple of years ago, and then there's a lot of schools, at least on the East Coast. So I'm sure it's on the West Coast, probably already gone farther than what we have. But a lot of our schools are starting to offer jiu-jitsu as phys ed options, versus previously all you would have was taekwondo and or judo. So getting better options out there.
Yeah, sometimes I wonder where I'd end up if I hadn't taken that 1-credit class. If I had chosen racquetball or squash or basketball, whatever else, instead of BJJ. But I mean, because that was the whole thing that led to GORUCK for me, was going through all that stuff. So I've got no clue where I'd be if it wasn't for that.
Yeah, that's crazy if you put it in that way. Like, because that was when I was in undergrad. Like that's what everybody took to get their 1-credit PE class. Like everybody was like, yeah, I'm just gonna take racquetball or weightlifting, because you eat both classes, you don't really have to do anything.
Exactly. Yeah, weightlifting was, listen to music and maybe pump a little iron if you felt like it that day.
Exactly. Yeah. Fake like you're doing a little something. The key was to lift as little as possible the first day. So at the end of the semester, when you actually try it, man, it looks like you actually have some improvement.
Yeah, it's like, look at that guy. I mean, he started out, curling 2.5 pounds each arm and finished at 30. Like, wow.
Yep, sandbagging. That's where it all begins. They invented it.
I mean, it sounds like you've been pretty busy with everything you've got going on. I mean, you've got your job during the day, you've been teaching all these classes at night at your gym. How did you even, get involved in GORUCK and kind of spin off into doing those kind of events?
To preface everything, I'm kind of fucking crazy to start off with. So I'm just always into something, and if I'm not into something, then I'm kind of a miserable person. So for me, it's better for me to be busy than not. So we opened up the gym. So we're going into our 5th year now. So my partner Paul and I, we opened up the gym. He's an Army guy. I'm not. And so we're trying to gain our traction because we're in a new community. There was already a Tiger Den around the corner, so they were getting all of our kids, and we're trying to like just get ourselves out there so we're there. So we're trying to figure out like what we can do to kind of bring some attention to ourselves. So we're like, all right, well, people love Memorial Day, Veteran Day. Let's do something for Memorial Day, Veteran Day. So we're like, all right, we'll do a fundraiser, and we'll just at first we were gonna do a roll-a-thon. So we were just gonna have people, pledge a certain amount of money based off of how many rounds they were gonna roll, and then we were gonna donate that somewhere. I don't know that idea didn't go very far because it's been done so many times before locally. So we're like, well, let's go for a ruck. He says like let's do a charity ruck. So we're like, I'm like, what is a ruck? And he's like, well, we're gonna take our backpacks and we're gonna walk 10 miles and we're gonna get people to donate towards our charity. At the time we donated to Mission 22. So we're like, all right, well, we'll get people to donate towards Mission 22. We'll ruck 10 miles afterwards. We'll do a barbecue. It'll be good times. I have I think it was a North Face backpack that I just carry around. I've had it since grad school. And then he had his 511 bag. And we threw some sandbags in our bags. I think we did like 25-pound sandbags, and our guests, they rucked with us, variable weight. We're like, put in there whatever you want to, put nothing in there. You need to have some water with you and then change your clothes just in case. So we did that. And it was a big success. Did that twice. The second time, didn't go off as well as the first time, but then there was just so much effort put into it, I think. And so after the second time, my partner, I don't know whether he knew about GORUCK before or not, but he was like, man, there's this thing, it's called GORUCK, and they do these rucks like how we do, only it's like it's crazier, and they dunk your bags in water, and then you go and you do 12 miles and stuff. And then so he sends me a video of Stoney Smith, like after selection with his loadout and talking about selection and stuff. And that's what we were looking at. Like we were looking at selection and we're like, oh, that's fucking crazy. Like we're not going to do that. Let's just stick with our 10 miles. So we're like, all right, cool. The next year rolls around and we decide to not do it. And because the Star Course came out. So the DC Star Course came out. It was like, hey, you remember that GORUCK thing I told you about? They're doing one where all you have to do is walk. Let's just do that instead of our fundraiser. So we're like, all right, cool. We're going to do this Star Course, and that'll save us some trouble from advertising and whatnot. So we sign up for it, and again, I'm crazy, so I don't even consider the fact that it's 50 miles, and all I've ever walked was 10 miles. And so I don't even think, I know I didn't do any extra training for. My partner did some extra training. We put a little team together, went out there and did the Star Course, and then that kind of like set it off for all of us, because we started with a team of 5, and I was the only one that finished. So then my partner Paul wanted to do it again so that he could finish. So he had already, like the next day, he had already signed up for another one. And then I ended up having to join teams with another guy. And so we're chatting as we go through, and he's like, so how many events have you done? And I'm like, oh, this is my first. And he's like, oh, you're crazy. What's wrong with you? I've done a light, a tough. And he's like explaining what those are to me. And I'm like, well, at this point in time, that sounds easier than just walking 50 miles. So I might try that out next time. So then we ended up doing the Veterans Day tough when that came to our city. And then that's how we ended our year. And then that was just, what was that? That was just last year. Yeah. And then we just added some more things to our calendar this year. My partner Paul, he started our ruck club, and so now we've just been hitting some events here and there this year. Just as I guess for me, it's just like a goal setting thing. It's like, hey, you know, and doing so much jiu-jitsu stuff, I'm like, this is a good way for me to have a goal without having to burn myself out with like always doing jiu-jitsu stuff. It's just something different, which is cool.
It's nice, right? Because you're so embedded in jiu-jitsu. It's nice to have something that you're doing that's, you know, also improving yourself, setting yourself up for success in other areas, but it's not directly related to it, so you don't get burned out.
Yeah.
And then those are, kind of famous last words, right? It's just walking.
Yeah. Like I did not understand the concept of it, because like, man, I was in Boy Scouts, and like we would go for hikes. So like I've gone outside, and like growing up, I grew up in Virginia, so we were walking stuff every place. I'm like, I can walk. It's not that bad. Man, totally unprepared, didn't train for it, didn't pack right. I basically just finished off of pure like stubbornness. As a matter of fact, it's funny because for that first one, the rule was you have to start and finish as a team. And I know you heard about that first one, the one we had in DC. I was like miserable. It was in May. It was like the coldest day of spring thus far. And then it rained all night long. Nobody knew what to expect. We're on the C&O Canal for freaking forever. So there was, like I said, I think we had like a team of 5 or 6, and we get going. And at some point through the night, like people just start getting hobbled, and we're stopping and waiting on the bridges and stuff. And so I'm like, man, all this sucks, but I'm just freaking cold. And all I know is that when I walk more, I get warm. So we left one bridge. We left like the last bridge where we all were held up at. And we're like, all right, come on, we're going to make it. Because they also told us, they were like, man, if you stop on the C&O Canal, we can't guarantee that somebody will be able to come and get you. So in my head, I was like, shit, if you have to get off the C&O Canal by the time we come off, we're, got a good chunk of this thing done. Like, let me just get off of this canal. So we leave from under the pass, and I just start walking, just trying to warm up. And then I look back, and my team is all gone. And I'm like, what the fuck just happened? So my partner called me, and he's like, dude, sorry, we dropped off. Such and such got hurt, yada, yada. I made sure that this person got a ride, and then I hopped in and with them. So here's where you are. So I'm like, all right, well, I'm just going to keep walking. So I keep walking, and I kind of start shadowing this team. And as they would go to a checkpoint, I'd just go to the checkpoint or whatever. I didn't even really start to talk to them. So I'm on the Instagram thing, and I'm taking the pictures by myself. So Big Daddy comments on one of my posts. He's like, where's your team? And I'm like, I'm walking with these guys. And so he's like, take a picture with them or you're going to have to drop out. And I'm like, fuck, like, I'm not dropping out. Like, in my head, I was literally like, I will finish this thing with or without a patch, but there's no way I'm not going to finish this thing. So then luckily, not luckily, but for the way things played out was the team that I was kind of walking with that I eventually introduced myself to and stopped being a troll. There was 2 of them, and one of the guys, he was planning to drop off anyway. So when he dropped off, I joined up with teammates, and then we were able to finish as a team of 2. All because of a bad idea that I thought that walking 50 miles was not that bad.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad it worked out that you got involved with that other team. But
Yeah,
that's crazy. I mean, I can imagine though, the stories from that first Star Course, just everyone was soaking wet, your boots are wet, your shoes are wet, you're drenched, and then that car shows up to take the friend away, and it's too easy not to get in.
yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. I don't blame my partner. Was more pissed at himself than anything else because we all train pretty hard and we all know each other. Everybody who's on the team, we all train together. You know, with jujitsu and Muay Thai, we're all training together. So everybody's like in good shape, but are you in 50-mile walking shape? And then my partner Paul, he's such a team player. Essentially, it's just like you said, he waited for the car to come pick one person up, and then he allowed himself to get in the car. And then as soon as he got home, he was pissed, and he was like, because he knew he could have finished it. As a matter of fact, like he signed up for another one today, and then we ended up riding up to Philly, and he finished that one. I guess then we both got hooked because afterwards I was like, I might do a tough or a light after this, but I would never do another Star Course, and those heavies look like freaking just crazy. I'm not doing that either. But so he signs up for the Star Course, and then afterwards he gets a tattoo. He gets like a Star Course tattoo, and it has a hash mark on it. Like a one hash mark, not a hashtag, but I don't know what you call it, a tick. Has a tick on it, and I'm like, well, why did you put this sign for one on there? I thought we were only going to do it once, and then we're going to not do it again. And he was just like, well, I'm just saying that I wouldn't not do it again. I'm like, well, you're an ass because you know that if you do it again, then I have to do it again. So then we end up doing it again. So bad friends and bad decisions.
Yeah. I mean, the second he put the tick on there, he knew he was doing another one because you're not just going to put one tick.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, it's cool. It got better the second time around. The next time we actually trained for it. So, I mean, and we had on the right shoes. That made a big difference. Right gear.
The little things that, don't really matter for the first 5 or 10 miles, but for the last 20, it's critical.
Yeah, man. I wore, because when we did our little 10-mile rucks, I just wore sneakers for those. But then when we did signed up for this one, I was like, all right, well, I probably should get some boots. My dumbass waits until I think it was like Wednesday, and then the Star Course starts that Friday night. So I waited till Wednesday to go buy some boots. And I bought some police boots, some Bates, and broke them in during the Star Course. It was awful, man. I felt like I was walking on marbles. It was so bad.
It's the best time to break in a new boot.
Yeah, right. Just all at once. Let's go.
That's rough. So you did the Star Course because you figured that it would be easier than the light, the tough, the heavy, because you're just walking. And then halfway through that, you meet up with another group and you're hearing about the light and the tough and the heavy, and you're like, man, this kind of sucks compared to what those sound like.
Yeah. I completely had no idea, and by the time he told us that, and then you go online. I remember looking at the GORUCK website. I think it was like a couple of nights later after I was actually coherent, because it took at least two to 3 days for me to recover off of that first one since we didn't do any training for it. And I'm looking at the website and I'm like, oh, well, light, that's only 4 hours, 6 miles. That's not bad. I know I could definitely do that. I don't know about the PT part, but whatever, we'll make it through. And the tough is 12 hours. It just all did. Man, after doing 50 miles, it did not look that bad. But then with that being said, our first event was a tough. And shit, that was not easy either. Yeah. Like, man, there is no easy one. So we did the tough, and it's like, man, it was still pretty intense. I mean, it wasn't killer, but it was intense. Afterwards, I felt like I was like, man, I'm glad this is over. If I had to do more after this, I could, but I'm really glad this is over. And then Paul, he did a light, and then he came back off the light, and he was like, man, you got to sign up for a light. Those are just fun. I'm like, all right, well, I'll try that. And then but I never just did a light. I signed up for I think my next event was, did that tough, and then I did a tough light, Anaconda down in Roanoke with Shredder. That one was rough, but Shredder's just freaking fun. So it was just awesome doing the event with Shredder. And then after that, the plan was to do just a heavy, because we were trying to set up to like kind of be methodical and work our way up to an HTL. So the plan was to do a tough light just to see what it feels like, and then do a heavy so we can see what it feels like to do a heavy. And then our next go was going to be an HTL. And then so I come off of the tough light. I'm already registered for the heavy, so I'm already training for that. And then I read somebody's AAR. I can't remember whose site it was on, but someone had an AAR that talked about his first event ever was an HTL. And I'm like, well, this guy can walk off the street and do an HTL. I should be able to do an HTL right now. So I signed up for that. And so, of course, peer pressure, I signed up for it, and then my partner signs up for it. So go down there and do that. And I was like, man, we finished. Well, I finished. My partner didn't finish the HTL. I finished the heavy and then had to drop during the tough. But, man, like I said, there is no easy event. There's no easy way out of a GORUCK event. Like you train hard to get ready for it, but even still, like you're still going to be hurting at some point in time, if not throughout the whole thing.
It's so true. It's so true. And I think it's so funny that, I mean, you did the Star Course and you're like, I'm never going to do this again. And then things change. You did the tough, you're like, man, nope. And then
Yeah.
And then you do a tough light, and then you're thinking maybe just the heavy, and then you end up doing the full HTL. And that HTL, that was the Baton Memorial HTL.
Yeah, that was Baton with so that one had we had Fagan, Cadre Fagan, and Cadre Cleve for that one. And so we at the point I was only signing up for like the themed events for whatever reason. I figured, the patch is cooler and you get a little bit of history lessons and stuff throughout it. So as I'm training up for the Baton events, I'm like trying to read as much as I can about, what Baton is so that I could try to envision, how they might do the event. And then I found a couple AARs about the various Baton events and stuff. So I'm like, all right, well, I figure they're going to make us just do a lot of miles, because all of the AARs, it was all stuff like, oh, the cadre took our shoes away and made us walk for miles, or they took our food away and made us walk for miles. And then I read the books leading up to the event to actually see what the Baton Death March and everything was. So like in my head, it's probably the worst thing I could have done. I should have just trained for a regular event. But in my head, I'm like, oh well, we're gonna just do a lot of miles. And then I'm like, it's a heavy, so we're gonna have the PT test. But then I was actually driving down for the TLs, the TL down in Roanoke, and I was listening to your podcast with who is it Cadre Dan?
Cadre
Dan.
Was
talking about they was talking about the heavies and how they were switching to Robbie Miller wide. So I'm like, all right, well, I trained for the Robbie Miller wide. I'll make sure I get my miles in. So I signed up for a Pathfinder so I can get my miles in. Did the Robbie Miller wide a couple of times. Like, all right, cool, we're good to go. Show up at this thing. Oh, no, before we show up, then they tell us who the cadres are. And Scott Fagan's one of them. Like, all right, well, I don't know who he is. This guy looks like a freaking monster because his picture is of him, like, doing an obstacle course race and, like, just looking like a savage. So I'm like, all right, well, he's going to be a savage, but he doesn't look that bad. And then there's Cadre Cleve. And all you know about Cadre Cleve, if you're not from New York doing one of his events, is from freaking selection. So I'm like, oh my God, this guy's going to be freaking crazy. I already know it. And then he sends out the email about, get your mind right and everything like that. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know how bad this is going to be. So show up there, and it was actually, it was awesome. It was good to do an event with Cleve because he's a really cool guy, and he pushed the hell out of us during the event. But he's a really cool guy. We did do a lot of walking, but we did not prepare for is all of the freaking weight that we will be carrying. If people haven't ever done like a Fagan event before, like you end up carrying a shit ton of stuff. If you do a Fagan event, like I mean like a metric, and it possibly like literally could have been like metric tons of stuff that we carried, and it was just utterly ridiculous. Like we started off that night. So we did Kadra Cleve's deck of cards. We knew that was going to come. Like as soon as you see Cleve on there, like, all right, there's going to be a deck of cards. We do that, and then the first thing that we have that comes up next is take us back up to Fagan's truck. And it's like, all right, unload these sandbags and these ammo cans and water cans, and let's move. So everybody's carrying something, and the heavy class was pretty small. The heavy class was only like I think six to eight people. Everybody's carrying something, and then we're in North Carolina, so we make it through the city wherever we're going to go to do the 12-mile ruck. So we got to drop off the stuff to do the 12-mile ruck, and that was also my first time doing the time 12-mile ruck too. So we did that. That was all fine and dandy. And again, pick up the stuff. So now they flip-flopped on us. So we stayed with Fagan. Cleve took off. And so we're carrying, ammo cans. He had broke out some extra stuff for us before Cleve left. He left us some gifts. So we're carrying the ammo cans and the water cans and the sandbags and everything like that. And Fagan just has us going everywhere. We're like just in and out courses, trails through North Carolina. Not too much PT, a whole bunch of miles with a whole bunch of weight. Pushed all the way through to the morning, and we were doing pretty good with our time hacks. So we didn't get punished. I don't think we got punished too much at all throughout the night, other than Fagan likes to do his SpongeBob SquarePants songs and stuff like that. So we did that. That was fun. And then in the morning, so we get to this park in the morning, and Cleve shows up. And so we're like, all right, cool. We had a little bit of downtime, got to change our socks, grab some food, and relax from there. And they're like, all right, we'll take all those sandbags and the cans and stuff and bring them over to the truck. So we're like, all right, cool. We get to get rid of some of this weight. So we get to throw the sandbags in the truck, but then we have to pull out more ammo cans, more jerry cans, and then in these litters. And I had never seen a litter before. Again, haven't ever been in the military. So as far as for me being in the medical field, if somebody has to get carried, like they're on a stretcher. So I'm like, all right, well, these sticks and poles, these look fun. This shouldn't be too bad. Maybe they help us carry the weight. So they're like, all right, well, you have a certain amount of time to put all this stuff together so that you can carry this weight. So like, all right, cool. So we stack it all together, put on these litters. And they're like, all right, let's move it. Here's where we need to go. And like, we lift this thing up and like immediately, like, what the hell? This thing had to weigh. Oh, it was heavy as hell. And then it starts just digging down into your shoulders, and we're moving. And overnight, we were crushing the miles. And then as soon as we picked this thing up, and I'm telling you, we were going maybe one block at a time. And we're just hauling this stuff throughout the city. And I guess, Cleve was actually pretty lenient with us. We didn't get punished too much. We missed a couple of time hacks. He gave us a chance to sit down and rest. He was like, hey, man, we're going to give you this rest, but I expect more out of you after this. So made it through. I don't even we went up to a freaking some college campus that was down there. All the kids are staring at us like we're crazy. Bunch of crazy guys carrying all this weight through their campus. And so then towards that, this was like, and you know how it is. The whole time you're like trying to guess what time it is. Like, all right, well, it's past noon because we passed the hottest part of the day, but we don't know if it's, close to 3 o'clock or whatever. So Cleve is like, I have good news and I have bad news for you guys. And we're like, all right, well, give it to us. It's like, the good news is it's, it's 2 o'clock or something like that. So we need to head back. Because you guys are moving so slow, you're probably not going to make it back in time if we push it any further. So we missed our last checkpoint. Bad news is you can't take the same route there as you took back. I'm like, what the hell? So we have to snake our way back through the city again, carrying all of this stuff, dying, come back, drop this stuff off. And the whole time we're talking to each other whenever one of the cadres not around. It's like, hey, man, we haven't done the PT test yet. We haven't done the Robbie Miller wide. Maybe we're going to get off scot-free. We're not going to do that. So we carry all this stuff back to the start point, put the stuff down. We're like, yeah, we're good to go. And they're like, oh, yeah. Because this was the weekend that the cadre Josh had passed away. It was like all of the events throughout the country are doing the Rooney wide for cadre Josh this weekend. So guess what? You guys don't get off. You have to do it too. I'm like, damn, we just went 23 hours. We have 1 hour left, and they're going to squeeze this in there. So we finished off doing the Rooney wide, which took us freaking forever on that one. So by the time we finished, like, we're done. And then we also realized in the middle of the event is that our start times were like, for between events, were like super tight. So we had the heavy, and it ended, and there was only like, I'd say maybe 2 hours in between. And it threw me off because every AAR that I had read, guys had like, you had more time in between. There was short time between the heavy and the tough, and then there was more time between the tough and the light. But each of ours, they had a really short time in between. So went back, switched out gear, cleaned up real quick. I don't even think we had time to close our eyes really between going from the heavy to the tough. We go out there for the tough, and it was like, man, we lost 2 people from the heavy, both injuries, and go out there for the tough. And this time, since the class is bigger, man, he has literally starts off with all of the gear unloaded. So I'm talking all of the sandbags, 80-pound sandbags, 60-pounders, ammo cans, litter, everything is unloaded. And so after we have a welcome party and they introduce the whole class to all of the gear, all of the heavy people. And this is my biggest regret for the whole weekend is we took this stance. All the guys who complete the heavy were like, we just carried all that shit for 24 hours. So the tough class is going to have to carry the litters, and we'll do the sandbags and stuff, but you guys are going to carry the litters. So litters, they like dig into your traps, and it's super painful. So it kind of made obviously it put a bad taste in the guys who were doing the tough, who didn't know us before, put a bad taste in their mouth about us as if we're like, kind of arrogant, too good to carry this stuff. And so we kind of like didn't get along with some of the people in that class up until a certain point. You start to realize like, hey man, everybody's working. They need breaks too. So sometime as morning rolled through, we finally got enough sense and started carrying the stuff, but it wasn't very good teamwork on our behalf to take that stance. But whatever, mistakes are made. They did a good job carrying that stuff, and then we pushed on. It went pretty well throughout the night, and then at some point we missed a time hack like really bad. And so we ended up going to like a completely wrong park. And instead of the normal switch off stick, because we were with Fagan at this time now, then Cleve starts to come down. And the next thing we know, we're playing battle games in wet sand in this volleyball court. Like, where do you find wet sand in North Carolina? But they find it. And next thing we know, we're rolling around in it. Yeah, so that was bad. And then Cleve comes back, and Tough hasn't done the deck of cards yet. So while we're wet and covered with sand, we get to welcome the sun the next morning with the deck of cards. I'm like, oh damn, that's it. So that one took forever because now we're all depleted and covered with sand. So, but still got to push through. It's not like Cleveland's gonna let you not finish it. So push through on that one, and that was still like dawn. So we still had to make it back carrying all of the stuff. So lots of hills. If I had never done an event in North Carolina myself, but I didn't realize it had so many daggone hills, like up and down these hills the whole time carrying all this weight. So we finished it. I think we got off. We got a little bit lucky for the tough because we didn't have to redo the Rooney wide for the tough. So all we had was a welcome party. The worst parts were the welcome party, the sand games, and the deck of cards. Those are the worst parts. And then the light came, and by the time we came around for the light, like at that point, you're like, your body's just moving, and your brain is just like a zombie. But there were some tough guys out there, man. In the heavy class, in the HTL class, there were some tough guys. So like, once you get back together in the group and you see those guys who have gone through the heavy and the tough and everything with you, and you're like, oh man, if he's still moving and carrying all this weight, there's no reason why I'm not going to do the same thing. So we started off the light with the Rooney wide, pushed through that one, and then now it's all daylight. And the light class is freaking huge, so there's no difficulty distributing the weight with the light class. So we split that bad boy up, and we kind of crushed it with the light. I say that, but we were probably moving pretty damn slow, the HDL guys. But with all the teamwork from the people from the light, we were making good time. Hit the miles with that one, came back, and we got back, and it was actually kind of early. We're like, dude, they've got something up their sleeve. There's just enough time for them to throw something else at us. And so then the biggest surprise was that the index actually was an index. It wasn't a false one. So like, all right, cool. So so wrapped it up. It was cool. It was an experience, man. It was crazy.
It sounds like it.
Yeah.
It's a long event, stringing them all together. You're training for it. You mentioned at the beginning of this that you teach roughly 10 classes a week, and you're participating in martial arts, BJJ, that kind of stuff. What other training did you do for this? Besides that, did you do additional training specifically just for the HTL?
Yeah, well, so I learned my lessons from the previous Star Course and being so unprepared. So I'm like, all right, well, I'm in pretty good shape. Fitness level was pretty good, but I had it's just like the feet. Like I needed to condition my feet, and I needed to get the hip flexors. That's what killed me in the Star Course. My hip flexors and my feet. Like by the end of the Star Course, I was walking around like a cowboy, using the outside of my hips to kind of like look like I just got off a horse walking around. So like, all right, I know I need to improve on those two things. And then other than that, just trying to meet the standards for the PT test and whatnot. And then gear was also a big issue. But for the fitness level, I found the Pathfinder training, because when we did the tough down here earlier, and it was at Veterans Day, met some guys who did Pathfinder, so we signed up for that, and that gave me everything I needed as far as how to break out the miles and the ruck workouts, everything like that. So got the right gear, shoes, got a GR1, and just got after it from there. So I had created a habit the year before where I would just wake up at 5 a.m. and work out. Because I have 3 kids, so it's like by the time you get off of work, there's no way that you're going to be able to get a workout in because you got to cook dinner, play with them, get them all ready for bed, all that jazz. So I was already waking up at 5 a.m. to get the workouts in. So what I basically did, I just switched them from kind of jiu-jitsu based workouts. So when I was just training for jiu-jitsu competitions, I was doing a lot of body weight, kettlebells, movement type workouts. And when I switched up to train for the GORUCK events, particularly the HTL and then the tough light that I did prior to HTL. I kind of use that for a training tool also. I switched up. I cut back on the kettlebells. Picked up a sandbag. Started doing more sandbags. A lot of ruck workouts. So basically, any workout that I would have done with basically body weight became a ruck workout. Lots of sandbag stuff. And I would just try to get as much in as I could between 5 a.m. and 6:30. And kind of, I recorded some stuff. Some stuff I pulled down. Pathfinders, is dope because they actually have like a treasure trove of different ruck workouts and stuff. So I would just pick out a few of those per week and just hit a few of those. I would hit a short ruck after I got done training at nighttime on the days I have to coach. Because my wife is like, if I'm already going to be out late that night coaching anyway, with a difference of an hour or so to get in a few miles rucking. So I'll get in a few miles once a week after I got done coaching. And then on Saturdays, I'll go out for a long ruck. I don't think I really exceeded. You have, with the other thing with the Pathfinder, you have, your different goals. So, we hit that overnight 20-miler, the burn and carry, so rucking, carrying the sandbag. So just kind of just doing more of the stuff that you're going to do in the event. But the time in training, I already had that. So I just kind of had to shift it over. And then the only other thing that I kind of added was just some isolated training for my core and hip flexors and stuff. Now, I got lucky on that one also because at the beginning of the year, somebody on the Tough page had this, it was like a 35K challenge or something like that, where you had to do you ended up hitting 35,000 repetitions of different core movements, so flutter kicks, Russian twists, and stuff like that. So I signed up for that, just used that for training. The rucking, the Green Beret, rucking for Green Beret thing that GORUCK did, I signed up for that, used that for training, pledged 50 miles on that. So 50 miles, and gave myself a couple weeks to knock that out. The 100 miles at the beginning of the year, signed up for that, used that to get some miles in. So I broke that out early. So I kind of started the HTL was in, I think it was April, I think it was April. So I kind of started training for it at the beginning of the year, really, like January 1. As soon as it hit, I was starting to get the rucks in. And so it ended up being every day, pretty much every day, 5 days a week, 5 a.m. workouts. And then Saturday you have a long ruck. And then 2 nights a week you had PM workouts. So you're hitting 2 a days, twice a week, and getting essentially every day, doing something every day except for Sunday, essentially. So the biggest challenge was just not overdoing it and injuring myself.
And so in addition to doing all this, were you also doing, BJJ training or anything like that? I mean, it sounds like this is a lot going on.
Yeah. So I had to shift my goals a little bit. So, and things kind of worked out for me. I had with our jiu-jitsu, we're in the Hoist Gracie Network. So with us, we go, and it's a pretty big deal to get you awarded your black belt under hoist, and it only comes up once a year. So the whole previous year, I spent the whole 2018, competing a lot of jiu-jitsu and training up to go take my black belt test. And so by the time I accomplished that goal, the year was wrapping up, and I was kind of burnt out. So I was like, all right, well, obviously I'm not going to stop doing jiu-jitsu, but I need to adjust my goals. So I'm still teaching the jiu-jitsu during all the training, but I'm not training for competition. I'm not really training for a test. I'm just, I'm teaching, and I'm kind of having fun, learning new techniques and just exploring. But my focus as far as what my goals were to, get through that HTL, and be able to make it through without feeling like I got hit by a bus, like we did after the Star Course the first time. Little did I know, there's no way to not feel like you got hit by a bus after finishing an HTL. 'cause that was some of the worst pain I ever felt in my life.
Oh man.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. What I've found from when I was doing, Muay Thai a lot is that it prepped me for easily for a light or for a tough. Like just that base level of fitness because it is I mean
yeah,
you burn so many calories training
yeah,
and the mindset you get in when you're sparring, when you're, doing stuff like that. It's a lot of mental toughness
yeah.
getting punched into you.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's there's definite benefits, and then I think you also have to realize like what the difference is. So my big mistake with the Star Course was being kind of arrogant, and it's like, hey, I'm out here competing, I'm not winning worlds or anything, but I was in tournaments like every month and doing pretty big shows for jujitsu. I'm like, man, I'm in shape. I could just go out there and do this. But you don't realize it's like this is a whole different muscle group that you're working with rucking. Like this is, it's hip flexors, quads, glutes, like you're upright and you're walking in jiu-jitsu, after you get that initial takedown, you're down on the ground. So it's more about flexibility, agility, and being able to adapt into different movements. And then rucking is rucking. Like you're just moving forward, and that's it. So you have the benefit of the fitness, but you still have to realize, like, you still have to train those other muscle groups. The mental toughness is huge, though, because like you said, there's very little else you can do in life. Like if you're not, law enforcement or military, very few people in life will ever encounter like another person giving them resistance and you're the only person that can get out of it. Like if you go up wrestling, you know how that feels. If you've, competed in a combat sport, then you know how it feels. Otherwise, like most people don't know what it feels like to like, hey, I'm the only person that can get myself out of this situation. So I need to make it happen. So like you said, the mental toughness from just, I mean, really just, the training, the sparring, the competing, that's a big benefit, from the jujitsu. And just being able to, not coming off the couch as far as a fitness base, like you're already in some sort of shape. You just have to shift the muscle groups that you're working. And in order to do that, you might have to cut back on some of your martial arts training. But you kind of just shift your goals. You don't leave it behind. You just shift it. And then it works out as long as, barring injury and you don't quit, you'll be good to go.
I think you worded that just perfect. When people talk about mental toughness and how to train for it, I mean, that's one of the things that I go back to is how training in Muay Thai for years built mental toughness into me.
Yeah, it's just you out there. And it's like Jason says it in one of his podcasts or maybe watching Selection or something. He talks about like when people give themselves that once we get to this next stop, if I'm still feeling this way when we get to the next stop, I'm gonna quit. Or if we have to do this, if we have to do the deck of cards, I'm just gonna quit. Like as long as you give yourself that out, then quitting is always in your head. And as long as it's in your head as a possibility, then there's a high likelihood that you will quit. Versus, like when you're competing in jiu-jitsu or any other combat sport, what is the consequence of quitting when you're in the middle of a sparring round and somebody's trying to punch you in the face? Like
Right?
you can't just drop your hands and walk away like, I'm done. This is bullshit. Like,
You better not drop your hands.
Yeah, you kicked in the head. You end up like Ben Askren, knocked out in 5 seconds.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
you drop
so,
your hands, you're not walking away. That's for sure.
yeah, yeah. So it's a big advantage. And it's not an end all be all. Like mental toughness can be groomed or developed in a lot of different ways, but participating in something combat sport related, jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, it'll get you there. Even I think CrossFit does a good job also, because if you are taking it seriously, you know, is you and the weight. Like the weight's not going to lift itself. So if you're taking it seriously, then you're pushing yourself in that too. The big difference is just the consequences. That's it. That's you know, when you have a consequence at the end of it, it's like, hey, I'm in the middle of a sparring round, and like I teach classes, and when I open my gym, it's everybody was a white belt, and everybody's like, you know, I can beat everybody with my eyes closed, no effort at all, hardly breaking a sweat. And then through the years, my guys get tougher. And even just last night, you know, I'm kind of tired from the training, and I'm rolling with this guy, and I'm like, all right, I'm just going to take it easy. I'm going to roll onto my back and let him do his thing a little bit. Next thing I know, he has my arm almost fully extended, trying to armbar me. I'm like, well, damn. What? It's like, well, what are you going to do? Like, at this point, it's like, all right, yeah, you could just tap, and that's probably the smarter thing to do, but that's, you know, given the circumstance, sometimes that's you know, it's quitting. In my head, you know, my twisted head, is quitting. As long as you have a way out, you should be searching for that way out. If not, then again, you know what the consequence will be, and it doesn't feel very good.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, I think that's one of the big things that you can see at, you know, martial arts gyms and stuff. There's definitely people who they go to tap really quick, even when you just start to get the arm, like, up, you got it, tap. And then there are people
Yeah,
who don't tap until, you know, the end. You're like, dude, I mean, this thing's like extended. Are you like, what's going
yeah,
on here?
yeah,
And it's definitely a different mental mindset. And but one of the things when you first reached out that I was really interested in is if, you know, how you thought martial arts, BJJ, Muay Thai, all that stuff translated over into training for GORUCK events, both physically and mentally, because I've got my own thoughts and opinions on it, and it sounds like, you know, we share a lot of the similar thoughts there.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think, like you said, the mental attitude, the fitness level, and also, you know, just the goal setting. Also, that makes a big thing. Like, some people, I feel sorry for some people that, like, in life, it seems as though they just don't have any goals. Like, you know, kind of okay with just waking up, going to work, come home, eat dinner, lay down. All right, we're good to go, and do it again, rinse and repeat every day. I'm like, man, well, where are we going with this? So it's like with the martial arts, you know, even if you're like Muay Thai, there's no official belt levels, at least not in traditional Muay Thai, there's no belt levels, but you're always looking to get that next technique, or to find that perfect movement or timing. So you're always working towards some sort of goal. In jiu-jitsu, you have belt levels. So you can use that as a goal, or you can use, again, skill and technique as a goal and moving forward. And then I think that's what keeps me and a lot of the guys who are in our work club. We all train together, and it's like keeps us going. In the events, it's like you know, you sign up for one event and you have a tough experience, and it's like, all right, well, this one almost broke me, or it did break me. So that means not that I'm going to quit and not sign up for any more. That means I'm going to sign up for the next one, so that I can complete that one. And then once I complete that one, then I'm going to try, a harder one. If I complete a light, then I'm going to try a tough. And then the logical progression to be to go to a heavy, but then some stupid people like me go to HTLs. But always, always just trying to find your next goal. You don't, that's something that's really cultivated in martial arts training also.
Yeah, absolutely. And it always threw me off that Muay Thai. I mean, there's no belt system or anything, and I kind of liked that structure when I was taking BJJ classes, because it kind of let me know where I was at and everyone else is at. And when
Yeah,
you
yeah,
you have someone that you haven't really trained with that much, and you get into the ring with them for some nice sparring, and then you have to take everyone. I don't want to say seriously, because you also have to take everyone seriously in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but I mean, you just never know what you're going to expect because there's no indication. So I've had people
yeah,
who've got 50 pounds on me, kick me in the head, because I didn't think that they could physically get their legs up there. But sure enough,
Yeah,
here comes the foot right in my
yeah,
face. Like, oh, all right.
yeah, yeah. That's right. It's true. But yeah, and it's funny because nowadays we Americanize a lot of things, and so some gyms are like adding belt levels and in some ways to differentiate levels between skill levels because we use a basic fighter coach instructor system, um, and so you're either one if you're not a fighter and you're just training, then you're just a training partner. So like you said, people might not know how good you are and what you actually can do. um, but you know I I personally I kind of like that. Even when I teach jujitsu, I don't give out belts very frequently. I don't give out stripes very frequently because I want my students to find it like be more intrinsically motivated. Like, don't let a piece of cloth be the reason why you're coming to class every day. Because if that's what it is, the day that you don't get the piece of cloth that you want, you're going to stop coming to class. Like, have your own goal, something that you can control. And if you don't identify that, then you're not going to last very long. And then when you see somebody who only has two stripes on their white belt, first time you see them, you better take them seriously because you never know. He could be a collegiate wrestler, and this is just he's just now starting jiu-jitsu. He can get tuned up real fast.
Yeah. Yeah, you never know.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's cool though because it's funny how things cross over because even when you think about like the GORUCK world, I remember when we did the light, oh no, the tough, there was a group of women who had all worked together or something like that, and one of the girls was a GRT, and the rest were not. And the one girl who was a GRT had talked the other ones into coming out to the event. And, looking at them, none of them were in peak physical condition. But, man, they were tough as nails. And they said it, when we all introduced each other, in the middle of the night. And it's like, my name is such and such. Joni, or whatever her name is, told me to sign up for this. I had no idea what I was signing up for. I would probably never do this again. This is the middle of the night. But, these ladies were carrying their weight. And then a couple of them not only finished the tough, but then they came back for the light, right afterwards. I'm like, man, you just said you were never going to do this again. And, it just goes to show, like, that experience or that belt level or how many events that you've done really doesn't really say too much of anything. What it comes down to is, basically, did you train for it and how much do you want it? Sometimes how much do you want it can get you through, even if you don't train so much, sometimes.
And it sounds like you experienced that at the first Star Course.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But definitely training is definitely a smarter way to go at that. Nowadays, my take is like you train so that you can recover better at the end of it. Because after the HTL, like I definitely felt like I got hit by a bus. I took a nap. We were headed back home, and I fell asleep in the car. We stopped at a gas station, and that's what woke me up. So I was so out of it that I didn't know where I was. I was like, all right, I'm sleeping in the car. I'm going to get up and go get a snack. I step out the car, and like it felt like fire just shot through my whole body. It's like everything hurts. It was freaking awful. It's like, you just did 3 events in a row. There's no way around that. But, the recovery was not that bad. I was back at work on Monday. I was back training within a week versus doing the Star Course with no training. I think I was down and out for over a month and a half. Like nothing except for jujitsu, no rucking, no running, no weights, nothing for about a month and a half.
It takes a toll on your body if your body's not ready for it.
Yeah.
And when you look at the events, I mean, I would definitely rate the HTL as more difficult than a Star Course. So the fact that, you kind of proved to yourself and everyone else that proper training leading up to an event will definitely change how you recover afterwards.
Yeah. Proper training and the preparation. Preparation is key. I read a lot of AARs, which means a lot to me because I don't read very often. I'm out there reading all these AARs and trying to piece together, like, what's the deciding factor in gear wise with people who make it through and who don't make it through. And the common denominator is just a person who has everything prepared prior to. So I had my heavy stuff in my bag to start off with. I had my gear for my tough in a separate bag, my gear for my light in a separate bag, my change of clothes ready. So by the time we got back to the hotel, all I had to do was empty out my bag, put the new stuff in the bag, take a shower, lube up, put my clothes back on, had my boots by the door. Never got too comfortable because I'm like, we didn't have a whole lot of time in between anyway. But even if we did, I'm like, well, if I fall completely asleep, then you gotta wake all the way back up and gear yourself back up to go. So never got too comfortable. Kind of just like, prop my feet up on the couch, dim the lights a little bit, just lay back and relax. And when the alarm went off, you're up and out the door. You just grab your stuff and go. And you never really have an opportunity to second guess whether you're going back out there. So once you're back out there, you're going to be in it. You don't want to, like I said, my mindset was if I can keep moving, I'm going to keep going. So the only reason I was going to stop was if I got injured, which luckily didn't happen. So once you're out there, you're going. And then it doesn't hurt that you have a bunch of beasts in your team. There were some tough guys out there. Like, all right, well, if they're doing this, I can do this too.
It's a great way to do it. I mean, prepping all your gear in advance. When I would think back to the back-to-back toughs and the tough light I've done, and just having everything ready makes it so much easier, because then whether you've got 5 minutes between events or 2 hours between events, you can spend that time not thinking about gear. You can spend it working on what you need to work on, whether that's rest and recovery or fixing your feet or getting food. Whatever it is, it's not scrambling around trying to figure out where your whatever is.
100%. That's the worst thing you can do. Like, you want to be to the point where it's just like, all I gotta do is show up and listen to what Cadre tells me and listen to what my teammates need from me, and that's it. You don't want to have to think about too much else. After that, make sure you stay hydrated, keep all the, hydrated, and electrolytes. That was key. With all the cramps and stuff, especially, it was kind of warm, North Carolina in April for the tough and the light, especially during the heavy during the day. It was really hot too. So, drinking plenty of water, but you got to replenish the electrolytes also. And actually, I thought food would be a bigger issue. I thought we would be, like starving, but you get to the point where you're just moving so much that you don't even get a chance to get hungry. You're just water and electrolytes, really. And then when you get a chance to eating stuff that has as many calories in it as possible. So we had, bacon out there, beef jerky, stuff like that.
So what did you use for electrolytes?
I used the Noon tabs. So I was also like super duper caffeinated too. So I'm sure that helped out. So I had the Noon tabs, the caffeinated Noon tabs. I had those, and I had the Cliff Block, the little jellies that are they're basically like glucose supplements basically. But those have some electrolytes in them, and then they sell a pack of those that have caffeine in them. So between, I think, like 2 out of 3 of my supplements that I'm taking every couple hours had caffeine in it. I brought some like actual salt tabs. I can't remember what name brand it was, but it was just like, the tabs that you're just going to drink down with your water. I brought those with me. And I did try them before the weekend to see whether my stomach actually would accept them, because the biggest downside of the salt tabs, as I read them, was that it upsets people's stomachs. So I brought them after having tried them, and I was fine when I tried them, but then being out there and rucking, when I took them, it immediately upset my stomach. So I didn't use any more of those. Now those are just sitting in my cabinet. So I guess the key for that is, when you get your stuff, don't just try it, don't just try it how it is at home for, 30-minute period of time, or while your body's not under stress. Like, you have to try out all your stuff while you're out, on a long ruck or doing a long workout to see how your body reacts to it. My body totally reacted differently between the electrolyte tabs, not under stress. Because I basically tried them out, like, because I read that they're good for hangovers too. So, so, so on a Friday night, if I went out drinking and I knew I had to wake up for a ruck on Saturday, I popped a couple of them, and then I would wake up the next day and I did feel better. But then when you take them while you're out on a ruck, I'm like, man, this thing, like, it just had my stomach churning. I'm like, yeah, I can't do these. I ended up just giving them all away to somebody who could tolerate them, because I couldn't handle it.
Yeah, that's so smart, testing it when you're out there rucking. And it's tough, right? Because some of these things are kind of expensive. I mean,
yeah,
we're talking about the blocks and that kind of stuff. It can be $1, $2 per little package. And so,
all right. So pro tip, here you go. Pro tip: if you order anything food wise off of Amazon and you can't keep it for whatever reason, Amazon will give you your money back, and you don't even have to send the product back. So, so anything food wise that you want to try out for your reps, get it off of Amazon. And if you don't like it, you just get your money back.
it's good to know.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like you said, it was churning your stomach, and I mean, you don't want to figure that out 6 hours into an HTL.
Oh my God. Right. Yeah. You're freaking 40 miles away from your start point, and you can't make it back because you're trying to find a porta john. It's not the best way to spend your Friday night.
No kidding. No kidding.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had, nights where I've eaten a ton of food, and then I go for a run the next day and I'm just like running back home, cutting the run short. I'm like, oh, I got to get back here quick.
Oh my gosh. We don't have to talk about, I got stories for days. I'm sure nobody wants to hear those, but I have a real sensitive stomach. So I'm finally starting to get to the point where I'm learning. It's like, when I'm out on some of these things, like, food is not necessarily the most important thing. Like, sometimes it's better for me to, like, if I had a big lunch and I'm gonna maybe go for a nighttime ruck, like, I'll eat a big or decent sized lunch and just skip dinner, because I'd rather be out there on an empty stomach filled with water than a stomach that's digesting. And like you say, you never know when you might have to stop somewhere or turn back. And you kind of feel like sluggish when you're digesting too. So it's like, just save all of that. Just eat when you get back. Come back and have a huge meal that you earn.
Good advice right there.
I love to eat. So on the regular day, when my stomach starts growling, I'm gonna eat something, even though maybe I'm eating 4 or 5 times that day. But when you're out there, you don't want to have to worry about that stuff. So fill your stomach up with some water and just keep moving.
It's tough because I associate food, certain kinds of food like candy and stuff with happiness. And when you're out there and you're dying, and then you just have like this like Swedish fish, Sour Patch Kids like mixed together, and you eat some of it, you're like, man, this event sucks, but oh, this tastes so good.
Dude, you just put me onto something right there. Swedish fish and Sour Patch Kids mixed together. That's awesome.
You'll be carrying a log and you'll just have like this stupid grin on your face eating this candy.
Yeah, no, I definitely know what you mean. Like, my first tough, like, all I was thinking about the whole time was like, man, when we end, I'm going to McDonald's and I'm gonna order 3 sausage, egg, and cheese biscuits. I'm gonna get the hash brown, and for the last whole 5 hours of this event, I'm just fantasizing over what I'm gonna eat for breakfast, and that literally is what pulls me through. You gotta trying to find that food is crazy. Yeah, but definitely will change your mood. So now I'll keep a couple snacks, but I won't eat before the event. I'll eat a big meal hours before, so that by the time I get there, my stomach, it's not growling, but I'm not full.
And you figure it out, right? After you've done a couple events, what the sweet spot is. And you can either even kind of figure that out with your training rucks, eating a little bit before, staggering when you eat, and figure out when the prime time is.
Yeah. Yeah, the training rucks are key. The training rucks is like, man, it's like, if you think of it, like if bringing it back to like martial arts or competition, the actual event, that's like your actual competition. And if you are, if you're training Muay Thai or Jiu-Jitsu, like you wouldn't show up to a competition the day of and not have done any drilling, sparring, preparation. So it's like the same thing with GORUCK. Like if you show up to a GORUCK event and you haven't been rucking and you haven't tried out your gear and you don't know how much water you need to drink or any of the above, like you're basically showing up to a fight not knowing how to fight. It's not a good idea. Unless if it's a light, then you'll be okay. But anything more than a light, like you should be doing some work prior to. Even it doesn't have to be a whole bunch. The toughest 12 hours. You could tough your way through it. But if you want to have a good experience, you should be doing some stuff prior to and not show up to that fight, not knowing how to even put your hands up.
I mean, a light might be more attuned to, just some light sparring in your gym, and a tough might be when, two gyms come together and you just kind of have I don't know if you guys ever did that over there, but we had a number of times over here where you just get two gyms together, you cook up a bunch of food, and it's still not, I don't want to say a real fight, but it's not, going 100%. Everyone's, going 70, 80, 85, and people are still getting bruised and hit, but it's not like no one's getting knocked out.
Yeah, you're not killing each other.
Yeah, but I mean, you can get by doing a little bit of sparring within your gym with little to no training, as long as you got your coach there and they just say, put your hands in front of your face and don't put them down. But when you've got the other gym coming in and you really, you can't do that with no training. Just like with the tough, you got to do some rucking before it if you don't want to really feel the pain afterwards.
Yeah. And God, a heavy better be putting in some work before you show up to one of those bad boys. That 24 hours. It's a long time.
Thank you so much for listening to the All Day Ruckoff Podcast. This has been episode number 110 with Chad Malone. Chad, I know you listen to the podcast, so thank you again for taking all this time to talk with me. I'm glad you're able to squeeze me in. We've actually been going back and forth for months trying to find a time to work this out, and I apologize for not getting back to you sooner, but Chad was awesome, and he's got kids of his own. My son, as a lot of the listeners know, has had a number of hospital visits and all that stuff, so coordinating these interviews has not been the easiest. So Chad, I really appreciate you being awesome about that. If you want links to anything we talked about in this episode, you can always visit the show notes, alldayruckoff.com/110, or for most apps, there's a show notes button, which will have all the links and good stuff in there. If you want to support the All Day Ruckoff podcast, you can leave a review, Apple Podcasts or Facebook, just search for All Day Ruckoff. Or if you want to support financially, there's always the online store, alldayruckoff.com/store. And finally, there's Patreon. Huge thank you to everyone who supports on Patreon, patreon.com/alldayruckoff. There's also a link in the show notes. And then in this episode, I want to give a special shout out to Lynn for supporting that way. I just want you to know that I truly appreciate it, and thank you. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the All Day Ruckoff podcast, and I can't wait to talk to you next Thursday. Thank you so much for all the incredible support, and as always, don't forget, attitude is everything. Keep yours positive, and drink hard, rock harder.